this time, I would like to call the work session for the Perry City Council for Monday, October the 3rd, 2022 to order. We have a quorum. Item 3 on our agenda this afternoon are citizens with input. Is there anyone here this evening that would like to address Mayor and Council at this time? Hearing none, thank you. Item 4 are items for review and discussion. Item 4A is the Office of the City Manager. 4A1 is a recap of the outstanding Perry International Festival. Ms. Turpin?
Thank you.
All I could hear was, I have heard nothing but praise for all of the performers that you had there, so our compliments to you.
Thank you. So tonight...
Is that on?
I don't know. Yes, now it is. Tonight I'm going to recap the Perry International Festival for you all. So this was our second annual event. Obviously this year we had much better weather than our first year, a higher attendance, and just a greater event overall. So to start with the recap, I just wanted to kind of remind everyone of the mission of this event. The Perry International Festival is a dual mission. We want it to be entertaining. We want people to come and have a good time, but we also want it to be educational. We want people to leave feeling like they learned either something about their own culture or a different culture. And through the different performers that we have, the different vendors that participate, and a lot of the different activities that we had, I think we successfully achieved that mission this year. One of the things that really stood out to me about our International Festival this year was that we exemplify true diversity. A lot of times when people think about diversity, they just think about it in one platform. I think that when we looked at our stages, we saw a variety of ages on our stages. There was everything from youth as young as 5, 6 years old to senior citizens dancing on our stages. So there was a lot of diversity in the age range, body shapes and sizes, and we also had traditional dances as well as modern dances. So it was just really neat all around to see that diversity was represented in so many different ways. The activities that we had, obviously we had live entertainment on 2 stages. We did have a variety of cultural food and beverage vendors. Our international market doubled in size from last year, and we did see a lot more cultural arts and crafts and handbags and clothing, so that was exciting. The international car show, I've got a separate slide on that. And then we had some hands-on activities that you can see pictured here, like our percussion play zone, where children got to use instruments from around the world and also learn about the significance of those instruments. The card show. So this actually tripled in size from our 2021 event. We did have great participation this year for it being only its second event. We moved towards a completely digital voting process for this. The first year there was a lot of scrambling to count tickets and try to keep up with the votes. This year it was very simple. We had more than 300 votes come in, but since it was all done digitally, it was very easy to see who won. And I think that for the most part, everyone was very happy with the car show. Obviously, in the future, we would love to see it grow more. I believe we had about 30 cars that were present, and typically car shows can range, anywhere from 20 to well over 100. So we'd love to see that continue to grow. Some of the feedback that we had from the vendors, this was by far the most exciting to me personally, was hearing from all of the vendors that we had participate, the various successes that they had throughout the day. Some of the vendors shared that they did better at our international festival than they've done at 2-day festivals in the area. So in one day, they did more than they would have in a 2-day festival. Lots of people were first-time participants and were a little hesitant at first. One in particular said that she was ready to give up on even trying doing events, that she's done other events in the area and didn't have a lot of success, and that this one solidified for her that she needs to keep pushing on because she did so well at the International Festival. One vendor who has been a long-time participant in City of Perry events, I've never had a Shave Ice vendor sell out before, marketing or something like that. Also just improve signage throughout the festival, letting people know where the different stages are, where the food trucks are. We did have maps and we did have schedules. However, a good problem to have, we ran out by 3 o'clock. So not even halfway through the festival, we had made sure that all of those maps and all of those schedules got into people's hands. Also, some of the feedback was the consideration for the event to become a 2-day festival. A lot of people have expressed the desire to see the performers that are on both stages. And unfortunately, although I have tried, you cannot be at 2 places at once. So you do ultimately have to pick which stage you want to watch. We did make some changes to the Heritage stage, which is the smaller Food Truck Friday stage this year, to try to be more accommodating and make the layout feel more fair to performers who were scheduled for that stage. However, we still did get feedback that that stage is smaller, less stable, and just they felt like it was still kind of a second-rate placement compared to the Diversity stage, which is on the lawn. So looking ahead to 2023, I have met with a couple members of the committee and just taken into consideration the survey review. And what we would like to propose is extending the hours for the event for next year. This year was from noon to 8 p.m. We would like the festival to be considered for 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. So those extra 2 hours, we would like to condense the event down to 1 stage, 1 primary stage. And we would like to cap the performer time limit at 30 minutes. We feel confident that by shortening some performances, we will still be able to have all of the representation that we had in 2022, but be more fair and be more focused on just 1 primary stage. So, that being said, thank you first and foremostly for supporting this. It's really exciting whenever I brought this to you all a couple years ago to see how much support, not only from you all, but from the city there has been for this festival. It's really exciting to be a part of, and I welcome any feedback, questions, concerns, or suggestions that you have for next year.
Council members, questions or comments?
I was downtown and enjoyed the event. I thought it was one of the best events that I've been to.
Thank you.
I just didn't think it was good. But of course I'm prejudiced because I thought we did a great job.
Yes, I enjoyed it too. I was down here and I like the different stages myself. In one section I like, I go to another one and I like it. That's one thing about me, I just like that. You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah.
You did a wonderful job. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
I thought it was fun how you had the mariachi group perform at different places around the street. That was fun. That was where we saw it was over kind of near Bodega Brew, that area there. And so I thought that was fun because that brought it to people that were working in their booths and that kind of thing. So
Yeah,
we had a great time.
That's consistent feedback that we've gotten across the board from the food trucks, the vendors, especially people with the cars, the ones that did not want to leave their car. They really did appreciate the concept of bringing some of the artists to the streets. So that is something that we would want to implement more of in 2023, that if we have a group who just feels like 30 minutes on stage is not enough for them to share everything that they want to share, we can invite them to kind of walk around and perform in different areas and be a little bit more personal, a little bit more organic in their performance versus something on stage. So hopefully we'll have more of that.
Other comments? Thank you. It was a very outstanding festival, and all the feedback that I received personally while on the street was phenomenal. People really enjoyed being there and our willingness to recognize the diversity in our community. So thank you for all the hard work.
Thank you. I'm not
I'm just concerned that I know how our merchants are, and they're very much me too, you know, and I've seen it over the last 10 years, and we do it there, then it's gonna be, well, Swanson needs 2 spaces up there because they have a tremendous amount of in and out. So that's my only concern. We can try it and see what kind of response we get, but I think we'll need to be prepared that we will get, I mean, like, there are going to be some people who want to block off certain places for their hairdressing. You know, because I've got a customer and I want it reserved because they can't walk very far. So, you know, we've heard it all before, so I just want us to be prepared to react to it.
Well, it's not an easy thing about enforcement, Mayor. This is not going to be an easy part to enforce because, number one, by Supreme Court ruling, you can't mark a tire anymore. Says when parking long, so we go out and watch them, or you might hear the complaint, then we might verify they're there for 15 minutes. So it's not a cookie cutter, you know, how you're going to do enforcement with that. But, you know, if people use it in good deal, the police department has no objection, but just understand that that's not just easy. Okay, 15 minutes, we're going to mark you. You can't do it anymore.
Okay.
Yes, my question is with the discussion around parking, there always not being enough, are we going to lose more parking with things like this?
Well, you will. You'll lose those 2 spots for parking. You know, basically, it's, I don't know what the Methodist Church does with the cones, if they mark off those 2 spots that nobody, I understand when they do it for garbage pickup, but on any given day, they're blocking out 2 on Washington. I don't know what their intent is there, but they do it. So if everybody starts deciding, well, I'll just block off my lot, you know. That's right. So what do you want to do? What did you, I'm sorry? You oppose it? Okay.
I think if you have a rule, you need to be able to enforce it, and this is not enforceable.
Spoken like a true principal, Doc.
It'd kind of be the honor system, wouldn't it, for parking there? Yeah.
And then some,
It is a safety hazard. I've been quite concerned up there myself because people are using the parallel parking on the other side of the street and walking over in the middle of the street. And it is back and forth. And there is a safety issue there, is there not, Chief?
Yes, sir, there is. That's one of the streets we've also are looking at for the golf cart ordinance that we're working on this. And that speed limit is 30 now, I believe. It had to be 25 for a golf cart to ride on that. That may be a potential, slow that traffic down, as well as with the light. We need to do that.
So what's your thoughts on it?
Well, we're gonna have people continue to cross there. I mean, that is, as you said, they park in the parallel spaces there now. I think that's gonna continue to grow. You're gonna have, more people go get coffee. I guess there's different than mine. I'm plugging in the pot. But, I believe the idea of putting the warning lights there will give us a safer option for people to cross the road.
Council members? Mr. Hunt? Do you have concurrence to move forward? I don't know if you'll need a vote on that tomorrow night or concurrence is adequate.
Now, if you can proceed with it.
Okay. Please move forward. Item 484 is the implementation of city facility camera security system. Mr. Gilmore?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, in your packet is a memo from me and support documentation from Chief Everidge relative to security camera systems. Originally, what prompted part of a follow-up with this was the joint program from the Houston County Board of Commissioners, Houston County DA, and the various cities, and the Sheriff's Office for security cameras for various streets, which the county is paying for. And from that, talked with our police department about what some of their recommendations may be for other locations for street cameras, but also prompted them to do a quick assessment of security cameras relative to our various facilities and parks. The reason I was interested in having that is that we have a mishmash system right now, which may be adequate, may not be adequate. There are a number of facilities we have that do not have security cameras and has been talked about in the past. And I felt that for a number of reasons that it's an appropriate time for us to get one interactive system working together. So Chief Everidge and his folks very graciously went out and did an assessment, and they provided, which is attached to my memo to you, about their priority relative to, based on the criteria that we use, and Chief is ready to provide any type, answer any questions or criteria on that was used by the police department. As you go through the entire list, you can see that all city facilities eventually will have to have something. But based on police's experience and their expertise, they are recommending the priority one. The administration is asking you all to do one thing for sure and maybe two. The first one is to concur with us to proceed with the whole security system camera layout. This all won't be done in 1 year, it might not be done in his staff do a security assessment for our water provision and wastewater treatment facilities. He inquired whether that would be just the camera only, and I advised him that no, it would be a complete, following up on Ms. Peterson's point, a complete assessment working with ESG, whatever the EPA requirements are, EPD, whatever the case may be. So he is, once again, graciously agreed to perform that task. And once we get the information back from him, then we will bring that to you with what the recommendations are.
I appreciated that very much.
Other comments? So council, are you committed to, let's go ahead and move with priority one with the understanding we're going to review the water treatment plants as a separate project altogether. So estimated cost on this first 6 systems was about $13,000. I think it's well spent and give us some data. Now, Chief, is this going to be tied into the flock system that is going to be put out countywide?
There is a separate software system which we're working on for a grant to help us as well, called Fuchsius, F-U-S-U-S. And that is like a single platform, so you can bring in multiple camera systems. So there's some existing cameras we already have at some of our facilities. So instead of throwing out what we already have, we would be able to continue to use that and add to our places. For instance, at Quigley Park, there's
are a nationwide problem, and part of that is because cats can reach a sexual maturity at 4 months of age. They can become pregnant up to 5 times a year. The average litter is about 4 kittens, but can be as large as 12. And some other things to note, despite the nuisance factor, stray cats can kill up to 100 birds and mammals in a year. And so there's a lot of data out there about how they have endangered and even eradicated some species of native birds here in the southeast. So I don't know if you have any questions or if you could-
Questions, council? Do we have concurrence to move forward with establishing an ordinance outlining fair items?
Great.
If you would move forward, we would appreciate it.
Thank you.
Item 4C is the Sports Complex Committee. 4C1 is to authorize a community survey and also approve of a development of a site concept plan. Ms. Peterson is going to lead us in that discussion.
We are, the committee has been meeting and does have 2 requests for council. Part of the due diligence of looking at this from every angle and doing our research is to, of course, to include citizen input. So we are asking for a vote from council to ask the city to do a survey, a citizen survey of issues that surround having a sports complex. So that helps us with, if we go with grants and things like that, that's an important base of information to be able to say that a certain percentage of citizens and that kind of thing. And then our second request is during our looking at parcels of land and all manner of grant opportunities, we consistently come to the sentence that says, submit your rendering of your concept. Well, we don't have not a professional rendering. We have a concept, but we don't have a professional rendering of that. And so as the city has done with other new parks, we're requesting an engineering firm or I don't know if it's architectural or engineering, I think engineering, to meet with us and develop an official rendering of this initial concept. And you all should know that what our initial concept will be is nothing like what we hope it will be in the future. It would be much bigger and include more sports and more opportunities for more people. But we're going to try to start small. So we're asking for those 2 things, a vote from council to do a citizen survey and to hire an engineering firm to do a concept rendering for us.
Council members.
Will part of the concept rendering include, I guess, how much it would cost or funding sources or?
I don't think that it does. I think it is like a blueprint you would have for a house that doesn't give line items of cost, but it would say to anyone who knew how to read those prints and how to look at that, oh, this is what you want to do. We can't go in and just give a verbal description of what we have to have in grant to talk to people about grants. And also when we're talking, having discussions with people about their property, it's an important thing to have in hand.
I don't have a problem with us doing a survey, but I personally think it's important that we just part 2. We have land already. I don't know why I was under the assumption that there was already land that somebody was going to give us.
I'm not aware of that land, but honestly, Phyllis, I thought the same thing you did when we first got started. A couple of people had some sketches of ballparks, and I literally said, that is way down the line for us. We're not ready to talk about that yet. But the further we got into it, and the more we began to search for grants and other funding sources, not necessarily a grant, even something from the state of Georgia, you have to have something to show them that you're doing. Also, it would help with knowing exactly how many acres a parcel would be appropriate or not appropriate to build this and have room to expand. It's going to be a holdup for us if we don't have that to move forward with. I was wrong in the beginning when I thought we weren't ready for that. I did not realize that that was going to be critical to get it going.
I have no problem doing the concept plan. I guess my only question is would it be premature to do a community survey before we know cost, before we know those things? I guess
No.
that's,
I don't believe so, because cost, even if we knew the exact total today, and it would probably, scare the bejesus out of everybody, but, I don't know how the people might spell bejesus, but, the total could be concerning, but we haven't begun the search for grants and foundations. We're not about to write a check for anything. And certainly, we would count the cost, but we're not exact. We need to know what exactly we want. And that is where then from that point, I talk to Mr. Whoever or Mrs. Whoever about land. And this is our concept. This is what we want to build, which makes us so much more somebody to do business with when we have an actual rendering.
I guess I may have misspoken there, Joy, I apologize. I guess I was at the community survey, sending that out before, not the concept plan, not doing that. If I'm going ahead and doing that, I guess my question is, would it be premature to do the community survey before we have?
Absolutely not, because our questions are things like, do you have children in recreational sports? How many children do you have in recreational sports in the city? How many, if we're looking for the number of people that are involved. How many children do you have in your household who are involved in sports outside of here? All that sort of thing. We need to take a picture of where we are in the sporting world.
And would part of that survey ask the direct question then, do you want to build a sports complex, or are we just gauging data as to who?
Well, we could also gauge the level of support for that sort of thing.
I have a couple of questions. When you use the terms sports complex, are you talking about ball fields only, or are you talking about, or have this brainchild of ball fields? And I think, and what Warner Robins just built, because I think if the term is used sports complex, most people are gonna, that fill out the survey will identify with that there. So I'm a little concerned that your survey won't get what you want from the ball field
Yes.
perspective.
Well,
And does the survey start first and get finished first before a possible engineer renders up? Because you really rendering up, if you do that first, then the survey should reflect the survey.
well, they should. Here's the thing. We're charged with the responsibility of doing both. When we were established, it wasn't go do a survey, and if there's enough interest, then you can go forward. This is just something. In fact, nobody even asked us to do a survey. We want to do the survey because it is good documentation and good foundation for asking for other things. And I really just wanted to tell you the importance of these two steps and how we'll be held back if we can't do these two things. But I will go ahead and add to that the new park in Warner Robins will never be a center for travel ball. It is too far
So there's
from
no
the
ball
intersection.
fields there, it's just a gym.
There are ball fields, but it's the location they selected that every person without exception that I've spoken with in the world of travel ball says that park will never take off. Not because it's a beautiful park, I'm sure, but it's located too you need to be less than a mile. Now, Cedric, or a mile, you know, not in that range or even visible. Cedric has already eagerly agreed that all seating functions of the recreation department would work with that, would have programs Monday through Thursday, and do whatever it took, because he's excited to be able to perhaps field some travel ball teams from our own city. Every weekend, hundreds and hundreds of people leave Houston County to go play ball somewhere else. And they sleep in hotels. I mean, I know it's the same song I've sung before, but there's no disputing it. It's not like other towns that have these facilities can make money on it, but here it can't. You know, nothing would make us different. And we have an extremely ideal location here in the middle of the state on the interstate. And we have hotels. The hotel motel tax revenue would greatly increase. And then that's projects that are all over. I will tell you that Dublin, just in case, I know I'm repetitive, but in case anybody doesn't know these things, in the city of Dublin, their park paid for itself in about 2 years. And that's why I'm saying if you just look at the cost on day one, that could make you stop in your tracks. But they paid for itself in about 2 years. And now it funds their entire leisure services part. It doesn't come out of the general fund. So we have the hotels, we have the restaurants, we have locations. We are leaving money on the table. It is a revenue stream that, now will it be the first 2-3 years, will it be what it could be? No. But once that word is out there, and trust me, this is a travel ball county and city. One man called me that owns 9 travel ball teams. So it's not, there's not a lack of interest in the general community. And I knew the day that I saw a $400 bat go into the hands of a 4th grade child that, ooh, you know, it's a different day. Like my husband said, we had one bat for our team, but it's a entirely different world. I didn't have boys, I didn't raise boys, I didn't participate in anything like that. So this is just, my interest in this has been from my observation of the money that's made and the opportunities presented to kids. Now, we would start with some, maybe 5 bills plus 1 special needs bill. Having a special needs bill also opens up other grant opportunities. But I would hope that we would be able to expand to other games, other sports, whatever is Cedric is finding, soccer and pickleball, lacrosse. There's all kinds of, I mean, you know, the sky would be the limit as to what we could offer, and we are geographically blessed. So those 2 elements that we ask for are critical for our moving forward. We would can certainly include a cost estimate. I mean, we know some cost estimates as far as like how much per field, things like that, but we can certainly include, it's not that we haven't discussed costs, we have, but we can include that.
Mr. Gilmore, the comprehensive plan for drawing and all will be managed by the city, will it not the committee?
The committee will be providing input, but yes, the city would take the lead to make sure these items are taken care of. Council concurs to proceed.
Because it is in the comprehensive plan.
Yes.
To do this. Thank you.
So, council members, what's your pleasure?
My recommendation would be that we follow the lead's guide. That's what we should do.
All right. What his recommendation was? Okay. All right.
And his recommendation was to do both, right? With the addition of cost estimates.
And possible funding sources,
Yes.
All right. Just move forward, Mr. Gilmore. Keep us apprised of what you're doing. Appreciate it. Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Item 5 are council member items. Ms. Bynum Grace,
Well,
can you use your mic, please, if it's working?
I told him.
I have talked to a lot of our employees that are just having all kind of issues with this new insurance. They can't get their medication. They can't get procedures. It's gone in on some of those situations. It's gone in 2 or 3 times and it's been rejected. And I just need to know what we need to do to help our employees to get this straightened out so they can get their medication and the procedures that they need. I thought we were going to something better, but it does sound like we didn't do good on this.
Well, answer and take that one up. Number one, any employees that are having any type of issues relative to the health insurance, I suggest that they contact personnel, human resources. We have advocates that'll work and help and assist and take care where there are some type of problems. The second point, council members, is we did not have a choice on the health insurance program we had. Just as a reminder, our third-party administrator we had before quit, wasn't doing that, so we went out for proposals to take a look at continuing on with the third-party administrator, self-insured, or to go on regular insurance policies and other various items. And you may remember the presentation that was given was the most cost-effective route, and ultimately, in my opinion, the best for our employees, because of the control that you all can have over it, is to continue along with the self-insured health insurance program and the third-party administrator. Now, that being said, previously, we had a third-party administrator that did a good job, a very good job, but was smaller, relatively flexible, relative to what expenses were allowed and how quickly it would go. So, for example, sometimes it may require to have pre-certification, and our third-party administrator didn't always enforce that, even though that's in our plan. And so consequently, and understandably so, for the employees, you can have where it seems to be moving along, pretty well. The third-party administrator we have right now, good or bad, depending on your experience, is much more reflective about how the business is now and what actually happens out there when you're dealing with health insurance, which of course is all fine and dandy and doesn't satisfy the employees' concerns.
possible to send out a memo letting, the employees know that if they've forgotten the procedure, that if they're having any issues, to go to personnel?
Yes, ma'am. We'll be happy to do that. But I'd also like to, not just remind council, but advise council that there were a series of meetings that were held for every one of the employees to attend to determine about how this program was, and your individual portal that was set up for you to follow along on what was going on. That was all done and provided to them. I think probably right now, though I certainly don't have any objection, I think the fastest, best way would be if you are contacted, you advise the employee to contact personnel, because then they can directly work, find out what the problem is, get the advocate involved if that's necessary, and resolve as every residential home. And so consequently, for some of the businesses and everything, their costs did go up. The primary reason why we have to increase that is because the Fire Protection Fund is not self-sufficient yet. You know, that fund's running, like last year, I think we had to transfer around $600,000 out of the general fund to cover that. If we keep making those kind of transfers, you're not going to be able to do and fund other type of activities. And so therefore, that's why we're in a process of doing an increase. Now, the commercial sector is not going to have that type of increase every single year, but you did have that increase this year. The other possible area, which could be some concerns expressed to you all, particularly going back on the tax bill and everything, is the annual city services charge, which you may remember that we send a bill to those properties for fire and stormwater for the annual cost if they do not have an active water meter, but they still have a building there that has to be protected by fire and they still have stormwater. So consequently, they will get an annual bill. Sometimes the property owner request from the committee that they would like to add another member, Mr. Casey Hayward Sr. That's fine as far as administration is concerned, but like to get concurrence from council about adding that additional member to the committee.
Council. Your thoughts? Okay. Ms. Feinberg, all right? Okay. Please move forward, Mr. Gilmore.
Thank you.
Other items?
No, sir, I'll do.
Mr. Smith?
No, sir.
Anything for us? Ms. Newby?
Yes, sir, just one item, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to bring to your attention a letter that you should have received from Catherine Lillis, who is an attorney with James Bates, Brandon, and Gruber. It was emailed this afternoon, as well as an overnight copy, says that it was sent. This is just to put you on notice under Georgia law that to preserve her client's position should a rezoning application be denied tomorrow night. This is their notice for the record of a constitutional challenge. You may recall from previous rezonings that we've had in the past, I think it went out, sorry. Previous rezonings that we've had in the past, if the actual applicant or their representative didn't make a constitutional challenge within the record, then that barred them from future appeals. And so even her email notes that this letter is only being sent as it's a requirement under the law to preserve her client's constitutional rights should the application be denied. This is,
We're only going to hear it tomorrow night, but the voting will be in 2 weeks.
yes, sir, that's correct. And this is relative to the rezoning application 119-2022 on behalf of Terra Moore Development and the property owners of Sexton Family Properties LLP and Brenda Wallace. The properties are 1701 Kings Chapel Road and 1713 Sewell Circle.
Yeah, aren't they on the corner there of King Chapel and House in Lake Brook, the big vacant lot there?
Yes, sir, that's correct. I just wanted to make sure that, since it was just emailed today, that you all were aware of it going into the hearing tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions, council? Okay, thank you. Item 6 are department heads. Ms. Key, do you have anything for us? Mr. Wood?
Yes, sir, Mayor, I do have two items related to the same thing. Relating to tomorrow night, we'll have a public hearing on several rezonings, one of which is one filed by the city to rezone properties on Macon Road. I've put before you tonight a copy of the
approve the city's request to change the zoning, this would not stop someone who is currently operating in C2 from operating. It would just be a non-conforming use. Is that correct?
That's correct, and this particular property would not become non-conforming. They would still be allowed to continue and to expand. The only two properties that, to my knowledge, that would become non-conforming is the self-service storage facility, currently or recently renamed Boardwalk Storage. They have a special exception to expand, and they will be allowed to continue that. They have their permits in place, so they would be allowed to continue that expansion, but no expansion beyond that. And the other property is the former Hammond Machine property, where there are some uses there that would not be allowed under the proposed zoning. They would be allowed to continue, however.
So, for these current existing uses, what I'm hearing you say is for most of these, there's no real effect.
No, I think most of the concern that I've heard, although they don't show up exactly in these emails, is property owners concerned about loss of value, and that value being what they can potentially sell the property for those uses that we are removing from because of this rezoning.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Wood.
Other questions?
Should be an interesting evening. Chief?
Yes, sir. We have been contacted today, late this afternoon, by Ms. Tiffany Gamble. She is on the Homeowners Association for Long Creek subdivision. She has some conflicting information, and so we're going to try to address this tonight. They're wishing to have a neighborhood block party on October 29th. Based off what she's asked for, I believe it's Chattooga. How you pronounce that? It is a cut-through street in the neighborhood they wish to block off. There are no driveways on the street. There is easy access in and out of the neighborhood. I would like to, with your permission, allow them to have this. We're going to review a couple things they have left, but we're not going to be responsible for blocking off streets. They will not have alcohol there. It's just strictly a neighborhood get-together on a street that has no homes that have driveways on it.
Mr. Gilmore, is there any problem with that?
There is no problem as long as you concur about having no objections about blocking the street. The police department of block party request handles everything except that portion if it's being asked for. Anytime anyone wants to block off any street or use any city property for something, if it's not already set like a rental fee schedule, then they have to get approval from the council. You may remember, for example, Clover Wine Merchant wanted to set up a little temporary thing out there for a while before I guess the permits were settled, whatever the case may be. And even though that's a little parking space and everything, it still had to come to you for an okay. In other words, you're okay making change on your property.
Questions, council? Are you agreeable to moving forward with that? Okay. Please move forward, Chief.
Thank you, that's good.
Chief Parker?
Yes, Mayor and Council, just want to do a quick reminder, I'll probably do it again tomorrow night, that October is Fire Prevention Month, and we are doing the fire safety poster contest. Entries need to be in by October 31st. That's for all third graders in the City of Perry service area, and we look forward to getting all those.
Super. It's always a fun month. It is. Mr. Swan?
Yes, sir. Mayor and Council, I just wanted to inform you all that this past Saturday, we had a Princess Pizza Party. There's a lot of P's. I need a P catcher. Princess Pizza Party from cut off. I will project until, yes. So we had a Princess Pizza Party this Saturday at Rosa Park at the World Center. We had about 30 of our princesses registered in advance. It was a great event. princess themed events and activities. And they did princess trivia and took pictures of it against the backdrop. I think it was a great event. And of course, they finished with princess pepperoni pizza. I'm trying to say that 5 times fast. But I think it was a great event. I think this aligns with what we're trying to do. We do our youth athletics, but we want to continue to increase our smaller programming. I think it was a great family event, and it filled up very quickly, registration-wise. So our next program will be a superhero-themed program. The ages range from 3 to 8 years old, so you can just only imagine how cute they were. It was a great event, and our Perry Proud, that's a lot of P's, I just looked at that. Our Perry Proud Junior Journalist covered the event, so we'll share that